All right. Well, I am here with someone that I have been wanting to do this with for probably over a year. And she's a mother of two boys, a wife, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, and a friend to so many people. And she just, in my opinion, came out of nowhere and has infiltrated my feeds with so much insightful, good content. She's an inspirational leader. She's an insightful leader. She's a speaker. She's a prolific content creator with a massive Instagram following. She's a graduate of University of Nevada in Reno. She's an industry leader. She's an award-winning mortgage advisor and a top producer at her company for the years of 2020, 2021, and so far this year, she is still top producing. Amazing work. She's also quite a fashionista and is rocking cool outfits on every stage that she's on. My friend Shivani Peterson, and if you're following her on IG, it's Shiv Peter. So Shivani, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. And
Thank you for that intro. I think it's the best one I've ever gotten.
yes, well, you've earned every bit of it. Like it was like just looking you up and looking up to you in the industry has been so fun to watch this transformation. The reason that I asked you on, and you and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, but when you and I met, it was at an event that the Forward event back in 2021. And I remember looking at everybody that was either on stage or in the audience, and you were kind of mysterious. You were standing in the back, and I remember thinking, because I just started seeing her content, and I was like, I want to meet her, and I want to just like I can't wait to see what she's going to be doing. And so I went up to you and introduced myself, and I just knew that I needed to figure out a way to collaborate with you. And it's been 2 years or a year and a half since we finally were able to get that done. And so I try to fly you in to do this because I think that this is going to be a powerful day. But you have no idea how much I appreciate you being here today.
I'm really excited to do this. And I remember meeting you at that first Forward. I was pregnant and tried not to vomit standing in the back.
That's see, I took it as mysterious, and
No, it was just nausea
together.
I have every pregnancy so I've been pregnant 3 times. I have 3 kids now.
3 kids.
And
See, she has 3 kids, bro. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
the first time I was only sick for like the first trimester, second time 20 weeks. With my daughter, I puked every day
Ooh, yeah.
for 9 months. Would you do anything if they told you you're going to have the stomach flu for 9 months?
No.
You'd say, "Fuck that. No thanks."
Wouldn't do it. Yeah. But you can't make those decisions. It just happens. It's
Yep.
never a good time, right? And so this is actually a really good segue because, well, let me kind of set the stage here. One of the reasons that, the biggest reason too, that I wanted to meet with you is I started this breakthrough series. And the breakthrough series is really a series of podcasts that are really dedicated to the coming up in the industry and the struggle that it takes to get to where you're at. But more importantly, I started to notice 3 years ago, it's been longer than that, but I think I started to actually take action 3 years ago around this as I started looking at top performers in the industry, and companies would post like this picture of top performers, and they always kind of look like the same individual. And I started to realize like that's not really what our communities look like. And I started to just really figure out like, what can I do to really change this? Because when I looked at all of the leaders in mortgage, like all of the top leaders, there's very few women, there's very few people of color. And I felt like, there's got to be change that has to happen in order for us to really make a difference in the communities that we're serving. And I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to make change. So I actually really started to engage and understand who those individuals were in the communities and the loan officers, and really found that many of them weren't getting their voice heard, didn't know how to get their voice heard. And then you meet people like you who are extremely vocal, who have this insane amount of confidence when you speak. And the way that I knew that is when I started to see your personality coming out of your content. You were cussing, which you don't see very often, especially somebody, in a highly regulated industry as ours, like putting out content where you weren't like thinking about, well, is my corporate, is my compliance going to care? Like you
They did
just
care.
they,
They did.
well, but you but you still did it. And I think that's really where I started to really see your voice. And so I said to myself, that probably didn't start there. And you and I had a conversation in Vegas where you said something along the lines of, you know what the coolest thing about doing what I'm doing is that I get to pick who I work with now.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that like all those little things came up. And then when I heard your speech, which was an amazing speech, you said something also that hit me, and that was you are a mom, and you just said it now, we're sick for like 9 months, and you still were the top producer at your company. So I wanted like that we're going to unpack all of that today, but those are all the reasons why you are this is why we wanted you on the podcast, because you blow me away with everything that you're doing. So where did it all start? I mean, I know that you were in a salon at some point and working in a small business, and then you transitioned into mortgage. And what was that like? What was that journey like, if you don't mind sharing with me?
So I went to school to do broadcast journalism.
Okay.
I wanted to be my dream was to be like an investigative reporter. And so I had a background there, but I graduated in the Great Recession. It was 2009, and journalism wasn't like a job that you couldn't get into at that time, but the pay was like horrendous. And I was managing a salon at the time. I had started there my senior year of high school and just worked my way up. And the ownership was splitting. And because of a non compete, the people who recruited me were going to have to leave town. So they were just going to let me open a business on their dime, like choose the branding, hire the people, design the inside, because we did a full remodel. And they were like, you can just do it because we have to go. We have to leave town. And
So
so for 2 years, I did that and it was really cool, but I didn't wanna go to beauty school because wet hair freaks me out. It's like I can't handle it. And then
even your own?
just in general, I can't handle it. It's disgusting. And then we I didn't want to own a salon because salons and restaurants are the most failed businesses. So I felt like I was, like, at the max of where I was gonna be in that job. And it's not that I didn't try to use my degree too. I would have taken the pay cut, but I sucked. Like, I sent my resume tape out for a year to everyone and no bites. Nobody even called me
Post
for an
this?
interview.
Have you posted this tape? Can we see it?
Oh god. I
This
should
is so
though.
good. Like, where
It's so bad. Like, I
you
was
had
so
to
bad.
you had to get into mortgage in order to be the best at journalism, like at this
To
broadcast.
get good at
Yeah,
video,
it's
I
crazy.
had to talk about mortgages. But they my brothers were doing lending. So they had been in lending and they had started during the boom. And then they had gone through the crash. And it was coming up on a time then, it was like 2012, where it was FHA streamlined refinances all day.
Mhm.
Like Neil would send out a mailer and then the phones would just blow up and you do FHA streamlines. And they needed help. So they were like, just come do this with us for a little while. And they always say that success is a very dangerous thing because the mix of money and praise can lock you in forever. And that's exactly how I got where I am. I started doing FHA streamlines and got locked in.
What year is this?
2012.
2012. So that's 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And you're doing FHA. So business is falling out of the sky. So for the next 10 years, you're having kids, you're in the industry, you're learning, the business. What was there ever a struggle, or was it always just kind of going
Oh
up?
no. So F I think I went following the FHA streamline thing, I went through what a lot of people in our industry are going through now. So I thought I was really good because I made a bunch of money and I was
You were
closing a lot
amazing.
of loans.
Yeah, we were geniuses.
But it turns out I wasn't anything. Interest rates were really good. So then interest rates went up like 2 points in 2 weeks. I don't know if you remember this, but it was really painful. And FHA
July of
streamlines are
2015.
done. They
July
they
of 20.
doubled the premium. They like it was done, right? And then I realized it wasn't me at all. It was market conditions. Then I started having kids too. So the markets was up and down. I started having babies and it was not like 100% focused anymore. So fast forward a little while, it's time to like start rebuilding a business because I want to be a top producer again. I had been a top producer and I didn't like being a nobody.
Mhm.
But I didn't really want to do it like cold calling people because I hate getting shit on by realtors. They're mean. Like nothing will make you feel like your college degree was a waste of money so fast as a realtor who maybe didn't even graduate high school acting like they're better than you.
Well, wait, Rue, hold on. This is good. This is so good because we got to talk about this a little bit. Um, what was the worst of it in your opinion? Like when was the breaking point of somebody doing this in such a rude way? And how did you feel about it? Because I mean, realtors they will figure out a way to make you feel this small. And
Yes.
I don't know why. I don't know why we allow it, but we let them do this. And it's not everybody. I mean, there's amazing realtors out there, but there's been
Yes.
moments where we would call and try to prospect, and they were just like, "How much money are you willing to write for me?" And our value was tied into a check. And I'm sure for you, you had it in so many ways. So talk a little bit about that. I'm curious.
So one thing that you have to know about me is that I don't have imposter syndrome. I've always thought I'm pretty cool. Like I've never felt like I don't deserve the stage or deserve the mic or deserve the opportunity. I feel like I do. Like I'm rising to the occasion. I feel like I want to be there. I deserve to be there, and I have something worth saying. So when you're calling a realtor and they won't even give you the coffee date, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, what made you and your time so much more important than mine?
Yes.
But also, like, I can understand that they're getting hit up by a bunch of lenders all the time who also have a very low entry level. Like, there's a lot of lenders out there who I personally wouldn't want to go to coffee with.
Hmm.
There's no way I could spend a whole lunch with them. So I understand their point of view too. And I felt confident I had something of value that would help them with their business. So why won't they give me the 15 minutes to talk to them about it?
Hmm.
So that's when I started doing content. And you were asking me, you were like, when do you think that like, because obviously the content I started doing it a lot, but there was a moment where all of a sudden it went fast, like it
Yes.
started going.
Yes.
So I don't think that it was that I changed actually. I think I just got louder. It was the same content that I was putting out, and you get better with practice. So anybody who's out there saying that they don't want to be on camera, or they don't want to do content, they don't want to be judged, all you need to do today to make your decision is go to the beginning of my Instagram feed because those videos are trash. They were so bad and they live out there forever. But I got practice and I got better at getting my message across. Like, how do I get people's attention? I started learning the tricks of how you capture someone's attention on social media so that then I can share my message that's valuable. I'll play the game. I'll have a gimmicky hook so that I can get you to stop scrolling. Once I have your attention, I'm going to teach you something. It's not going to be a waste of your time. So I think I just got better at getting that message out. My beginning videos, they were like just as sarcastic, just as like authentically me. It's just I wasn't as good at producing video.
It's so good. So do you remember the turning moment of going viral? Do you remember which video that was and like
Because
what
I
you,
only just went viral.
I
This
know that's
always
what I'm saying. That's
this
it.
always kills people when they find out because they're like, "How did social media transform your business when you have 3,000 followers?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Because I I'm not trying to be an Instagram influencer. I am trying to grow my business and promote my business on social media. It's never been my desire to be an influencer. I don't care if I go viral, but I can tell you when I put up a video, if it gets 500 views, that's like I called and reminded 500 people that I can help them with real estate today. I
Mhm.
don't have the time to do that. The video is way more efficient. So for the first 3 years that I did content, I didn't like, I haven't been viral. And then this year I posted a video very recently that went viral and all of a sudden everything's like blown up. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch. Like, do I get more quality leads? Is the quality of my community going to change? Because it was amazing before when it was small.
So talk to me. This is amazing, but talk to me about your your strategy and in terms of like you said it earlier, like I'll play the game. Like I know that there's some tricks here. What are the tricks? Like if I'm somebody who I suck at producing content or I want to get better at it and we're watching you and watching what you've done and getting what you've done really nicely is you put your personality into helping people and it's attractive and therefore now starting to go viral. What are those tricks that you would recommend?
So there's basic things you need to do. Like this goes beyond video into like life advice. But so growing up in Reno, our parents came to California when my dad was getting his master's from India. And then they lived in Alaska. That's where June and Neil were born. And then down to Reno because my dad was the vice president of the university here for a long time. But we were like one of only a very few brown people in this town.
Mhm.
And my mom would, like, she won't leave the house without being fully dressed, hair done, lipstick on. And she always told me, if you look nice, people treat you nice. And so I would say, don't show up on your video looking like you fell out of a tree. Look nice, have nice lighting, have a nice background. Basic, right? Just basic. I don't think you need to get your hair and makeup done to do this. I think you should look like yourself because people who engage with your social media, when they meet you in person, they want to meet the same person. So absolutely look like yourself, but look like a nice version of yourself, like the nicer one, not the one who is hungover on Sunday. But that's my one tip. Be aesthetically pleasing because it's an aesthetic platform. And then two, you only have a few seconds. There's so much digital pollution out there of people wasting people's time on social media. So the average consumer has gotten tough to that, and they're not going to give you very long. You've got like 3 to 5 seconds to get their attention if you're putting out a video. So in that 3 to 5 seconds, say something to get their attention.
And that's the hook.
That's the hook.
How do you come up with your hooks?
I'll just be driving. Like now once you start doing this, you'll be having a conversation with like my team or with a client or with my brothers, and I'll think of something and then I just put it in my notes or record a quick voice memo for it.
Okay, so you have a note in your cell phone and you're just jotting down. Do you jot down, and it's probably a little bit of both, but and I'm thinking about this because I think about my process, but I jot down an idea. Like I can't think of one right now, but I know what I jotted down an idea. Let's do this actually. So I jotted down an idea this morning about feeling guilty for taking vacation.
Okay.
A lot of people feel that vacation guilt, especially right now. And loan officers have it because I'm sure you were there where you're like, if I don't answer my phone, they're going to go to another lender.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, if I don't answer my LO's phone, they're going to quit me and go to another lender, right? Like they're going to go to another company. And then I was like, but I'm shit if I don't have time off. And so I was like, I got to figure out a way to kind of play with that idea. So I opened my phone and I just write down vacation guilt. And then is that how your process works? Or do you come up with the hook first and then come up with the idea? Or is it a
It's
combination of both?
evolved because I used to have the idea and then just write the whole script, and I wasn't worried about having like a good hook.
Mhm.
And I was very late to the game on starting to have a good hook. And then I realized like this is what I learned in school about writing headlines. Like it's the same thing. Write
That's exactly
something
it, right? Yeah.
that gets people's attention.
Mhm.
So now I actually both. I'll have the idea and put the idea in my phone and then later on try to come up with a good hook. But a lot of times now I think in terms of a hook
In
and
terms
then I put some quality behind it.
It's a new language. And I think what like for me, and I'll share this, but I think a lot of loan officers, what you have done differently than me, right? I approached this wanting to be known in the industry. I wanted to be known in the industry. So that was my idea. What you wanted to be known as was to the consumer and to the millennial, and you had an avatar, and you didn't pigeonhole yourself. And I want to just help people in Reno find a house.
Yeah.
Wanted to inspire people that were interested in all facets of, financing or buying a home or whatever the case is, right? So if I could do it differently, I would have brought in my message, and it's something that I still work with. But what's your advice on that? I mean, who is your true avatar?
I think you have to spend some time thinking about this because a lot of people just start putting out content
Mhm.
to sell something or to promote themselves. But I had a goal of trying to create this community where people like if you think about well, this might be hard for you to think about because you're not a woman, but being a mom got so much better when people started being honest about it. So our parents' generation, moms were very alone and like alone in their struggle and alone with how hard it was because people didn't really talk about it. But now, like all over social media, you hear moms like sharing how hard their day was, or if you yelled at your kids today, you're one of many, or like there's so much authentic content out there about how hard it is to be a mom and how lonely it can be and all the different struggles, whether you're a working mom, stay at home mom, do a combination of both. There's a lot of community around this now and it's talked about a lot. And I was thinking one day, I'm like, how much better would money be if people talked about it like that? Like we could change it, we could make it more accessible, we could make people have access to better information. Like there's always the generic person on social media or out there saying, I want to teach you the stuff about finance you didn't learn in school. But I mean, like, let's go deeper than that. I mean, what were you really gonna learn in school as a high schooler? Like, what in college, like, what would you have really grasped? It's not that I wanna teach people what they didn't learn in school. I just wanna open up the conversation about it so that we can all share what's working with us for us now, and so that we can feel less alone and less like there's something wrong with me if I'm not succeeding. You
That's
just need
exactly.
more information. You just need to try something else. You just need better ideas.
So then, go back to that, because there's something that, one of the biggest reasons that I love this series on the podcast is because I get to meet people who have truly broken through. And you broke through. I mean, there was a moment of your time, of your career, where you realized this wasn't me being amazing, it was the market being amazing.
Mhm.
And how do I outsmart the market through marketing, right? And
Yeah,
so, but you also have a couple of things that are different than the majority of the people in our business. One, you're a female. Actually, I'd say three. One, you're a female. In the prime of your business, you were having children, which is very disruptive to your day-to-day work life. And then three, you said it, we were brown. Not a lot of people look like us. So tell me a little bit about that. Like, how did you come up with that? And is that even something you think about when you wake up? Because for growing up and growing up in business, I never thought about it ever. Like, it wasn't even something that came to mind until someone kind of opened my eyes about it. And then it all kind of came into focus and I started realizing certain things. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And, I started realizing that I used to be the youngest person in like the boardroom. I'm not anymore, but I used to be. And we would be in these executive meetings and I look around and I actually, unlike you, felt imposter syndrome. Everybody had college degrees. I graduated from high school. Like I always felt like I didn't belong there. So I kind of based it off that, but I would say something and no one would acknowledge it. It would just be like nobody said it. And then somebody later on would bring up what I just said and use it as their own and get credit for the idea.
that sucks.
And I was like, "This is so weird," but somebody said, "This is something that happens. It happens to women all the time. It happens to people of color all the time, and it's not necessarily a conscious thing. It's just something that happens subconsciously to people, and you gotta." And the class that I was taking was a diversity class, and they were saying, "But this is how you overcome that." And you said it without realizing it. You just got louder, and that was from a content perspective. But I also think that a lot of times people in diverse cultures tend to lose their voice because they're not given the safety net to say it's okay to get louder. And so tell me a little bit about that. I mean, in your philosophy around and your thought process around those things coming up in the industry.
It's really weird because I find myself being hypocritical because I have never felt like I'm disadvantaged because I'm female or I'm disadvantaged because I'm brown. But at the same time, I'm very dedicated to helping women, and, like, my team is all women. My community online is very female focused. I'm very much a feminist, but I've never felt like an opportunity was harder for me versus somebody else because I'm a woman.
Mhm.
I've always felt like I can work hard enough to overcome that, or I can be loud enough to overcome that. I could get out of somebody's way, right? Or make them get out of mine. But on the other hand, like, I don't I guess I I will call people out. Like, so I don't think that people do it consciously. I think you're right. They don't. But I
Mhm.
want to point it out to them so they don't keep doing it. And I do it too sometimes. Like, so an example recently is that someone locally, a realtor I work very closely with, was having Neil speak to her group about something. And then she kept calling me and asking me, like, he needs to send this. Can you get me his invoice? And I was like, yo, would you be asking Arjun to get this stuff for you? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not his secretary. If he didn't answer, you try him or his assistant.
Yeah, I love
And
this.
she's like, oh shit, you're right. I'm sorry. I wouldn't ask Arjun that. And I was like, not now, now you're aware.
And I feel like you can do that female to female. I almost feel like it's almost like, oh my gosh, but it could happen. And first off, for the listeners that don't know this, Shivani, and maybe you should explain this, Shivani, but you came up with your brothers who are also very, well known in the mortgage industry. And I know that there's going to be listeners who don't know them, and are now getting introduced to you. And so It's Neil Dingra and Arjun Dingra, and Shivani is married, so her last name is Peterson, but obviously maiden name is Dingra. But they're all three. You guys work together as a team, or how does that work? I've never really understood that.
Yeah, so Neil's our branch manager,
Okay.
Arjun's our sales manager, and I'm a loan officer here.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And so going back to what we were saying, you have to, but let me go back to, because you said, I may sound hypocritical on this, but you do find yourself really engaging with your community because of that. Now, why do you think that is? Like, why do you see that that's the opportunity?
I just think that, like, growing up, I was treated very different than Arjun and Neil. Our parents are very traditional Indian people. I mean, they
Okay.
got less traditional the longer they were in the States. But, we'd all be watching cartoons and mom and dad would say, "Shivani, go set the table." And I'm like looking at Arjun and Neil sitting there doing nothing. I'm like, "Why don't they set the table?"
Yeah.
But ever since I was a kid, I would ask that question. I'd be like, "Well, why doesn't they have to?" And then
Mhm.
my parents would say, "Because you're a girl." So I would just think about this stuff all the time. Like, my curfew when I was 18 was 10. I had to go to prom for 1 hour. The dance started at 9. I had to be home at 10. I was like, what is this? Arjun and Neil didn't even have a curfew. And my parents, shameless, they were like, you're a girl.
Shameless. It
They
just is
didn't feel bad. They didn't feel sexist. To this day, they're like, we did the right thing. You turned out fine.
unapologetic. I love it.
No. So
Because these are gonna does this flow into your world, considering you have two boys and now a girl?
so
What are the
Neil's
chances? What are the chances that this happens to you?
I manifested it. Like, I wanted it so badly. I talked about it. I put it out into the universe. Like, people always say to me, like, "You made this happen." If anyone questions the power of you making things happen, you controlled something you have 0 control over and made it happen.
Yes.
But I think that always being told because you're a girl, like, led me to want to create a community around women. And then just by chance, I mean, I go to college, I join a sorority, and I'm president of the sorority by my senior year. All women, right? The whole
Mhm,
time I'm working in a salon industry, all women. So I've always just gravitated to these situations where it's all women.
mhm. But you're in an industry that's very male dominated. I mean, it truly is. I mean, I think there's maybe 2 to 3 execs who are female, like,
But you could see why, because you said, like, it's hard to have children. It's disruptive to your career.
mhm,
Um, so I think that a lot of women kind of back out of, like, climbing the ranks and moving up in sales because doing well at sales is time consuming. You do have to be available. And we're a commodity. I
mhm.
mean, a lot if I don't answer my phone, I do believe they'll find another lender, no matter how good I am.
Exactly. That's true. So, okay. So, like, let's shift gears, because you said something that it reminded me of. I don't know how I wanna say this.
Just say it. I don't care.
Well, it's not about you. It's more that I don't wanna offend the person I'm about to say it about. But, like, so you said something that resonated with me, that I was it made me rethink some things with my wife, because she's an investor. She's working every day, but she's also not in a 9 to 5 job because she has our kids, right? And so a lot of times, a lot of our conversations are around scaling the business. Like, don't get caught up in that. Get an assistant, get somebody to do that for you so that you can just be in investing mode. Don't
Yes.
get caught up in customer service side stuff and in the Airbnbs, that sort of things, right? And she's just a badass. Like, she handles everything. And so you had said something on stage that reminded me of her, because you said, in this weird, sick way, I felt like I had to do it all.
I like the attention of being a martyr.
Yes, and we all find ourselves that way. Like, even as a leader, I love putting out fires, love it. But what am I doing to make sure there's no fires, right? Like, that's where I got to live, in the space of making sure there's no more fires. And so I'm a master delegator. I mean, I get shit done through people, and I think that that's really what's helped me scale business. And so for you, you had 3 children in the prime of your career, and you're just getting started. How did you, like, talk to us about that move of realizing it's time for me to get help and get somebody to help me through this process? Because I think that's what holds a lot of people back. Is that not knowing how to do that?
So I'm a control freak. Like, I want to be in control of everything. When I had my son, Krish, my first baby, I ended up in an emergency C-section, and I had really bad PTSD about it for, like, a month. And my mom's a therapist, actually, and I call her June a lot when I need help with anything because his emotional IQ is, like, unmatched by anyone else's.
Agreed. Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't know why I can't get past this, like, it's killing me." Like, Josh told me I should go visit the babies in the NICU and be grateful that I have a healthy baby and I'm fine, but I can't get over that I ended up in the C-section. And my mom finally, after a month of letting me whine, was like, "Shivani, slap yourself. Look at your baby who's happy and healthy and slap yourself." And I was like, "That's true too." And then I call her June and I'm like, I can't get over it. I'm so upset and depressed and traumatized." And he's like, "Yeah, you know why, right?" And I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "'Cause it didn't go according to your plan. That's the problem. If
That
you had
that
planned
is
to
yes.
if you had planned to have a C-section, Shivani, you'd be fine. You would not be upset and, like, mad at the world and wanting to go back in time and change this." And I was like, "You're so right." So one of the things that I've done as a coping mechanism to my control c to need to be in control is I will make everything my fault. If I can find a way that whatever just happened is my fault, then I can make sure it doesn't happen again because I'm in control.
Mhm.
So every time something doesn't go my way, I look at it, whether it's a loan, whether it's a deal I lost, whether it's something that happened with the kids and they had a tantrum in public, something. I'm always like, how is this my fault?
Mhm.
What do I do differently so it doesn't happen to me again? Like your processor forgets to upload something and it blows up at funding. That's my fault. How is it my fault? How can I fix that going forward?
I think that makes you an amazing leader, without a doubt. I mean, I think it makes you an amazing loan officer, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best for your mental well-being, because
But when it came
you
time
can't
to, like,
control
wanna
it.
go hard at work, I was
Yeah.
like, "How?" Okay, so Josh gets pissy if I leave him with the kids all the time, or I the nanny keeps calling in sick, or what it's all my fault. How am I gonna fix it? And so then I started finding solutions to fix it.
There you go, yes.
I
What's
found
up,
them,
bro?
and then I kept going, and I just had dinner with a friend last night, and she's like, "I can't find, like, the thing that's gonna to for me." Like, I stay home with these kids. I work part-time in her husband's office, who's they own a dental practice. She goes, "But I haven't found the thing that's just me, and then I feel so guilty when I leave the kids to go do something for myself." And he swears he's not doing this, but he is, like, pissy when I do it. And I'm like, "You don't need him to validate you that he's pissy." Like, she goes, "I keep telling him he does this, and he swears he does it." I'm like, "You don't need him to admit he does it for you to know it's a fact. It's a
Yes.
fact. Just ignore it." Like, he's gonna glare at you when you leave to go to Pilates, and when you get home, he's gonna be a little pissy. You be cheery enough for the both of you. When this stops getting a reaction out of you, it stops being worth his energy to be pissy, and he'll just get on board.
So is your anecdote to this is truly, because I'm confused a little bit. Is it truly to kind of find ways that you can like control it, or is there some give up of
So
I
much of what
realize that
happens is your perception of what happened, right?
that's yes, okay.
So change your perception. You're in control of it. You're in control of your mindset. You're in control of the way you perceive the situation. You can change the way you remember it, the way you view it, the way you handle it next time. So change your own attitude and then you see so many things change. Like I stopped feeling like it wasn't my right to work just as hard as my husband was working.
That's it. Okay, that's where I'm getting.
It's
Yeah.
my right too. If I want to hustle, I can hustle the same he can. He's equally parents to these kids and we will equally be responsible for figuring out the solutions.
What's your greatest accomplishment kind of once you understood like that? What were you able to accomplish from there?
Being a top producer.
And, and you love that. I mean, that's is that
I
is
love
that,
winning,
that
like, that's the
validation
thing,
for
is
you?
it's not about the money, right? It's not about how much commission I made by being the top producer.
But it doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't, but it was about winning. I love winning. So even when I get the deal, right? When I impress the client, I feel like I won their respect.
Yes.
Or when I find the way to get the escrow closed, I won. Like, I win. I'm the winner. And so being the top producer, like, I just love winning.
Mhm. So when you got into this business 10 years ago, what was what if you can go back to yourself and give yourself some advice back then, knowing what you know now, what would you say to yourself? Or what would you do you think that journey was meant to be the way that it's been?
It was totally meant to be the way that it's been because you learn from these things, right?
Mhm.
I don't know how you like, a good example is I've been married before. This is my 2nd marriage, and I always say, I don't know how people learn how to be married unless they fail at a marriage one time. Because, like, I learned so much about how to treat people and how to behave and how to act by having a marriage blow up in my face. And so, I think the same thing applies to business. I think you learn the most from the things that you sucked at or that you failed at or when you fell on your face.
Mhm. This is good. This is good. I didn't know that, and why would I know that? But, um, so when how was this in, like, 10 years ago? Was this within that period of you being a loan officer, or was it prior to that?
No, I got married when I was, like, 22, right out of
Gotcha,
college.
gotcha.
Nobody should be allowed to do that. That's not a good idea.
I think after 25. I mean, and I think for men, it's in their 30s. I don't think that
Nobody should get married at 22, you are a child.
So this is so good. So it blew up in your face. You now kind of have this experience, these life experiences that have created who you are today. And so, do you mentor females, or you just more find yourself helping them from a leader perspective, side by side, as you built your team?
I
But
love mentoring. So, like, I'm trying to figure out how I launch some sort of coaching thing
Mhm.
because I love helping people, like, figure out how to stop standing in their own way.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking because as I've started to really focus in on this, I find like what resonates with me may not resonate with a female, right? We're two different people. We lead differently, but I do think like if I could think of 5 people right now that I work with that need a Shivani in their life, like that they need like somebody who's got to that next level. And here's why I say that. I was looking for a coach. Like, I think there's 2 kinds of people in this world. There's the people who have coaches, and then there's people who don't. I always have fallen into the people who don't. Like, I'm not paying some dude some money to tell me what I probably already know. However, I just was like, I need to really work on some shit. I need to get better at who I am, and I wanna be a better leader, and so I was like, I'm gonna finally go down this path. I was like on my agenda of like my business plan, like every year, and that would be like the one thing I didn't do. And so finally, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so I dropped some cash and I hired this guy. Well, I actually, before I hired this guy, I was looking for, I wanted somebody who looked like me. And by
Okay.
me, I don't mean like short Mexican with long hair. I meant like somebody who was, who went through kind of how I grew up. Um, didn't go to college, and figured out how to make it, and then like, they would coach me because they were 10 steps ahead of me, and I would learn from them, and I was looking for it, and I was looking for it, and I really wanted somebody who was Hispanic as well. Like, I just wanted to just kind of same kind of culture, that sort of thing. And there was nobody in the industry that I could find. Now I've met people since then that kind of, that if I had met them then, it would have been like a perfect fit. My world was just limited, but I just feel like there's got to be a way for you to help more people. And I don't know if it's like a master class or, something, but there's a need for it. And I could, like I said, I could think of like 5 people who need a Shivani in their life. And there's the you 10 years ago that would love to be mentoring with you. And so that way, that journey is just a little bit faster. Maybe it shaves off 3 years of success or 4 years of success or 5 years of the struggle to get to that success faster. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing is so inspirational, and seeing you on stage really, like, I honestly, at Ford, you were my favorite because it was raw, it was gritty, and I like that you talk a little bit of shit, and then it's like part of your personality, and so yeah, I would love to see you accomplish that. So what are the next things you wanna get to in your career?
I wanna start some sort of thing, like you're saying, but it needs to be very personal, so I'm not sure how to best put it together, but it's going through my head right now a ton. I'm trying to sort that out, how we can start some sort of coaching program. I also really like, my whole life, I've wanted to be a writer. That's how I got into journalism because, unfortunately, at the time that I was in college, newspapers were dying and online news hadn't taken off. So they didn't know where
There's like
print
a gap. Yeah, that's a good point.
So they were like, Prince, a dying field, you can't do it. So you have to switch over to TV. So then I switched to broadcast, but it didn't light my fire the same way because you can't go in depth in 90 seconds the way you can in a feature article in the newspaper. So I've always wanted to be a writer. So another big goal of mine is to become published, like publish a book.
But is a book about, is it a fiction? Is it a nonfiction? What is like
Fiction.
where, okay.
I don't have the imagination for fiction.
Okay.
I love reading it, but
Yeah.
I don't think I would be good at writing it. Maybe, I don't know. But I think it's gonna be a nonfiction book when it finally happens. So I wanna focus on that, and then I also like, my ultimate goal in life would be to be able to be present. So, like, when I'm home with my kids, to be present and not be worried about what's happening at work, and when I'm at work, to not be worried about the fact that I'm not with them, or when I'm on a vacation, to sit on the beach and relax and not worry about everywhere else I should be.
So
I
hard.
think you've arrived in life when you have the ability to be present in the moment you're in.
Do you meditate?
No. Should I?
I don't know. I mean, I just started over the last couple of months, and it's hard. And meditation is like really that exercise of trying to focus and really get back to focus and get back to focus. And your mind starts to wander, and it's like getting it back. But then you're creating a muscle of like in these spaces where like your phone just went off, and now you're like, okay, what did they want? Like it's like getting back
Yes.
to that moment of focus. That's where I watch it sometimes when I'm talking to people. I'm thinking of a million other things. And, like we're ADD kids, right? Like a lot of us grew up with so much, overstimulation that I needed it. And so what I noticed, the biggest thing I noticed is I meditate in the morning and then I go work out. And when I'm working out, 90% of the time I'm not there. I'm somewhere else. Like I'm thinking about my day. I'm making a list. I'm like just kind of going through the motion. Well, once I started to meditate, I noticed that when I was working out, I was focused on like the muscle I was working out. I was focused on, something. I love that we're talking about focus and your phone is blowing up. Like this is the best ever. But
It's
this is,
because of the iPad somewhere in this office. The phone is on silent, but I don't know how to make the iPad shut up.
it doesn't. Yeah, not mine neither. So yeah, so like if you so for me that was really it. It was like just trying to figure out that mental, they call it like it's a muscle you're creating a focus. So that 10 minutes in the morning that you meditate, you're just getting back there. So I don't know if you should or you shouldn't, but for me, I don't want to take a pill to get focused.
No.
Like I want to figure out how to manage my mind. So that's why I asked.
I could see this working really well because even like small shifts before, I started setting an alarm at 8:30 and then taking my phone into the kitchen for it to charge there overnight.
Mhm.
But the biggest difference wasn't that I stopped staying up till 2 a.m. watching TikToks. It was that in the morning, if your phone is right there, you pick it up and you look at it first thing when you're
Mhm.
still laying in bed. And I had to buy an alarm clock. Like, I didn't realize it had been years since I'd had an alarm clock by my bed. But I bought one, and then I stopped looking at my phone first thing because I read Jay Shetty's book, Think Like a Monk,
Okay.
and he talked about how horrible it is to look at your phone. One, because of the brightness of the screen when your brain is still waking up.
Mhm.
Two, because the way information floods in. Like you'll see all the emails you've missed, all the social media notifications you've
Immediate
missed,
anxiety.
the text messages. Your brain, you like go through the day way more tense because of the way you started that first few minutes.
That's it.
So when I stopped sleeping with my phone next to my bed, and sometimes I would like make it all the way through breakfast before I remembered to check it and find out that some loan got denied in the middle of the night or some condition's stupid or some borrower started like doubting me. I was more even keel all day to handle all those things later
Yes.
because I just didn't flood the information in first thing when I woke up.
Do you still do that?
No, because my baby monitor's on my phone because they don't make like the new thing is that the monitor's in your phone. It's so
Yeah.
stupid.
So quickly, not to could take this on a diatribe, but I will tell you, like, so I don't check my phone anymore purposely because the first thing I do is meditate because I'm just trying to get my mind right. I'm trying to
I gotta
like
start
settle it.
this. This is good.
And the Calm app, and I think there's several apps, but I use a Calm app because there was a like a 12-step guided, like they guide you through, how your brain should be working and what you should be thinking about and how you focus and how you breathe, all those things. But yeah, very similar to you is I got an alarm clock. And so I focus my phone, where it won't like do anything unless I activate it. And then this little alarm clock, I think it's called Hatch. It
Yeah, that's what
it's
I have too.
yeah, isn't that the coolest thing? Like how it, like, just chirps birds or something, like,
Slowly wakes you up with light, and then the
oh,
sound
that's
starts.
best thing ever.
It's very romantic.
It it really is. So I purposely don't check my phone, and then I do that, and then I just have a little bit more, focus, and then if I do something like this, like 10 minutes before, I'll try to do, like, a 5-minute breather, like, where I get my mind right, so I could truly focus because we're just bouncing off the walls all day, and I don't think people realize how much interaction we have in our industry. We are just, like, in a high emotional, high stakes business that is just a constant interaction. And
And
so
we're
like
dealing with people during a vulnerable time where they're very high emotion too.
and so when I get home, a lot of times I'm shit. Like I feel bad about that. And I don't want to be like that. And so I was like, maybe this would just get me a little bit better. And honestly, I feel like I'm more engaged. So I hope you try it and then we'll talk about it. But this will be really cool to kind of, go and see if this is something that you can do. But super curious how that would work. So didn't mean to go off track on that, but I really look,
No,
Shivani.
I think it's really good. I gotta do it.
I think you're. If I could predict this, and I'm pretty good at this, I wanted to get you on the upswing, and I really think that like the next time we do this, somebody on your team is going to tell me I have to pay for this. Um, and so I needed to get you on the upswing, but you are going to be a rock star, and I think that any chance that if anybody's listening who has the ability to get Shivani on stage, get her on stage because she is one of the most amazing speakers that I've seen, but it's real and there's grit to it and it's raw and it's authentic. But hearing your story and hearing how you've been able to touch success in a way that you have is amazing. But what is truly amazing and what I love about you is the fact that you come from a place of I think I'm pretty cool. And I think that I am supposed to be here. Whereas a lot of us second guess that. And I think that that's a missing key piece to being able to be confident without arrogance. And there's a fine line with that. But it's also like knowing that it's okay to be confident. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Real quickly, because I want to go back to this, where do you think that comes from?
Just being on your own team. Because if you like there's you're never gonna be able to count on everyone else with 100% certainty. Like, I'm very lucky that I have people in my life that I know will stick together forever, like me or Jin and Neil. We will always have each other's back. We will always stick together. We can always count on each other. But other than that, I think you need to know because there's someone out there listening right now who doesn't have an Arjun and Neil, but you don't need them. You just need yourself. You need to be on your own team and always have your own back. So don't doubt yourself. Show up for yourself. When you make a promise to yourself, don't break your promises to yourself. Like, all you're doing is ruining the credibility you have with yourself. So if you can count on no one else in the world, be able to count on yourself, have your own back, and you could do anything. Like, I started grad school in 2020 when the market exploded. And I'm just slowly going through one class at a time to get my master's. But I'm not going to let myself down. I started this. I didn't think I was going to get pregnant a third time. I didn't think the market was going to explode. Doesn't matter. I can do this. I have my own back. I'll just go slower. I'm just not going to let myself down. I told myself I was getting a master's, so I'm doing it.
You're getting a master's on top of being the top performer, 3 children, and getting on stage whenever you can. I mean, this is nuts. This is crazy. God bless you. I mean,
Thanks.
but I think that that's like the way that I think that a lot of people need to be thinking is like it's okay that the goal just the goalpost get moved. You're just not going to let yourself down. And I
Yes.
think it's understanding how to make those negotiations with yourself, but never to back off of making that goal. And I think that's
And be grace, give yourself grace. Like, oftentimes, a lot of us are very hard on ourselves too. Like, as much as we let ourselves down, we also talk shit to ourselves all day long. And I think you have to stop doing that because you are all you've got. You're the only person in the whole world that you know without certainty will always have your back. So, I mean, with certainty, will always have your back. So, don't talk shit to yourself. Like, be good to yourself. And when you talk about yourself to people, talk highly of yourself.
I love that. And that's hard to do. I mean, I'm working with a branding person now who it's all about like getting to know me and talking about myself. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like I cringe every time I have to talk about myself. But I do think that there is that having that confidence to say it's okay to do it is key. And so I think a lot of people need to really understand that. Okay, we got 10 more minutes, so I want to get a couple of things from you. So tell me your biggest pet peeve being in mortgage right now, outside of rate. I mean, we know that, but what's your biggest pet peeve?
The distrust. I don't think it's anybody's fault, but we live in such a distrustful time. So, do you remember like when we were younger, the news was like super like those evening anchors on the news, you trusted them. Like you got your news and your parents and you watched the evening news like those people were God. Like they were telling you the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. A huge problem with our society right now is that there's no credible media source that's unbiased. I mean, nobody's getting their news from the evening news anymore and they're getting it from social media, which is totally skewed. So every time we go to tell a borrower something, they come to us from a place of distrust because they approach all of life with distrust right now because there's never been a time where people have been less trustworthy of everyone. And so I often feel like the first half to 75% of securing a deal or a client or a sale is just them earning their trust, just having them feel safe with me.
How do you
Because
do
I'm
that?
not trying to sell them something that's not good for them. Like there's plenty of people out there where maybe at this specific moment, homeownership isn't the right thing or real estate investing isn't for them. But overall, I feel very confident that it is an accessible way for people to change their lives and that almost everyone should buy their home and almost anyone could benefit from real estate investing. Like I really, truly believe that. And so it can be exhausting to convince people of that and for them to not think that I'm just trying to make a commission.
So crazy, but I totally agree, and I think that that's really it. Is really understand. I mean, you have to believe in what you're selling, obviously, and I've never looked at what we're doing as selling. I always felt like we were helping people,
Yes.
but I do think a lot of people approach it from a sales perspective, from their content to whatever, right? Like it just comes off as disingenuous. I think that gives us a bad name in the industry. Um, which is why I think, and this is solely just my thought process, but I know that my parents are more comfortable doing a financial transaction with somebody of their culture. And I know that if you talk to any Spanish speaking loan officer, they will tell you that they probably have to work with that client for a year before they're ready to get in a home. But when they get that client, they get their entire family. They're at, backyard barbecues. They're at, they become a part of that family because they were able to help them accomplish something that they never believed they would, be able to do,
Which is absolutely amazing.
which is absolutely amazing. Right. And so I think that in order to overcome
This
those,
is interesting though, because Indian people, I feel like, would prefer to work with a white person.
why do you think that?
I don't know, but they don't trust each other.
It's funny because I do think that there's in cultures like in mine, like we're kind of deep down haters, and like just in general, I don't know why, but we are. Um, which is you got to work through that. Like for me, I got it. Like the moment and I'll give you a really cool example. Like Renee Rodriguez, everybody loves Renee Rodriguez, and I was like, well, why does everybody love this dude for? And so I had to like figure that out. So I sent him a DM. And I basically said, like, why does everybody love you? Let's meet. And then we met, we did a podcast and like loved the guy. Right. But it was like it was from immediately like being a little bit of a hater. And I don't know, he triggered me on something that he had posted one time. And, but I will say, like, I think deep down we all kind of carry that, or some of us carry it. But I wonder if that's where that resolves from, that distrust. I don't know. But, do you find that you help more who's your segment of business, like going back to that avatar question, like who's your segment of business that you get most of it from? Is it just anybody, or
My avatar is a female that's
is
30 to 50 years old. But no, my business is equal. Like I can't find a trend in the demographics.
you can't? Okay, it's just, and you've studied this, you've tried to get to it.
Yeah, it's everybody. Like
Yeah.
I help more men than women at certain times. It
Okay.
all like fluctuates. Families, young couples, older couples, families of all different cultural backgrounds. There's no like method to the madness.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Last one. What is your biggest accomplishment that you've had outside of being the top producer?
I manifested the family I always wanted.
That is amazing. That
I
is,
have, like, I always wanted to duplicate me or June and Neil, and
yes.
I don't know how, but it worked out.
So real quickly, talk about manifestation because I don't, it's something, it's weird because this word and this concept has been around, right? But over the last 3 years or 2 years, I've read more about it and heard about it, and it's a thing. And
Yeah, and I'm not into this woo-woo shit, but, like, I think if you believe something will happen,
Mhm.
you truly believe it, and you put it out there and you make it known. So, like, I think it's important to say what I want to accomplish in the next few years because I can't do it alone, I'm gonna need people's help. So put it out there, say what you want. And, like,
Yes.
I always told everybody that I was gonna have a kid at 28, married or not, with a partner or by myself. So I did. And then I always said I wanted to have my family again, and there was a whole time period where I thought just wasn't gonna happen, but I never stopped wanting it because my husband was dead set on 1 kid, so a compromise was 2, and he was done, and we fought about this for years.
That's why he's so pissed off every time you leave him with him.
Yeah, not anymore. He's come a long ways, this man. He deserves
Yes.
credit.
Well,
But
because it's hard when they're so small, it's so hard. But then they turn a corner, and then they're like kind of self sufficient, like, and then you're like, okay,
then
this
you
is
accidentally have a 3rd.
then yes,
But
yes.
everyone's like, "Was it accidental, Shivani?" And I'm like, "Look, I didn't rape the guy." Like,
My wife is like, I will have a kid when I'm ready to have a kid. You have no say in this. It's happening. So yes. So yeah, was it really an accident?
but she's here now. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters, right? I'm pretty sure she has them wrapped around her finger.
Oh my god, it's so funny to watch, like, the difference.
It is really weird, girls versus boys as
I
a
know,
father.
it shouldn't be, but it really is. Like, she
Really,
can do no wrong in his eyes.
that's exactly it. Well, I'll tell you, I'm so thankful that you took time because I know you're busy. You're a top performer, and you did this with me today. So thank you.
Thank you
And
for having me. It was so much fun.
here's
And,
what
like, a good reflective, informative process. So, I actually thank you.
No, well, thank you. That's really cool. I wanted to have like you and whenever I meet somebody that I'm like, I immediately know that I want to do this with them. I almost kind of try to limit the discussion beforehand because I want to get to know you here.
Yeah.
And so I learned some really good things about you. And I hope that you and I can figure out ways to collaborate in the future. So here's what we're manifesting. So, one, you're going to be on 50 stages next year. And I believe it. I see it. I taste it. It's
Let's
happening.
go.
Okay. You did this to me, and it's what I love about your personality. But we were having a conversation in Vegas. We ran into each other at a bar, and I said, and I was telling you about this thing I did, being inspired by Neil's Forward event. I put together a breakthrough event for local. It was like 125 people, intimate thing, and it was one of the hardest things that I put together. It really was hard. Doing an event like that is not easy, and
No, it's not for the faint of heart.
not for the faint of heart. And it was very expensive. We're so underwater on the deal, but it changed lives. And I still hear people today that like that event changed my life. And I was backing off of it because I went into a new job. I took on just a lot to chew this year. And then the market tanked, right? So we're
Yeah.
dealing with all of that. And so you just said, like, I don't know, in the most calming way, like, basically, what the fuck are you going to do with Breakthrough 2.0? And I was like, ugh. And I was like, all right, it's happening. And literally been living in my head rent free since then about that. And it's going to happen. And so we're in 2023, we're going to break through. We're going to get you on
Yes.
stage. And it's going to be one of the 50 you're going to do. And I can't wait to be there with you. So I really appreciate you joining today. And it was so cool to get to hang with you. And I hope that this is just the beginning of us collaborating far more in the future. So thank you, Shivani. And if you're not following Shivani, follow her on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. Do you have a YouTube?
Yep.
Follow her on YouTube and do a deal with her. She's in Reno. Where are you licensed?
Reno, Nevada and California.
Nevada and California. Call her because she is just helping so many people get into homes and invest money in real estate and build wealth. So, Shivani, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and I can't wait for Breakthrough 2.0.
It's going to be awesome.